So welcome to the Sage Mountain Gardens. Rosemary planted these in the early 90s, built these terraces, and we'll see some in the lower gardens. We have about 200 species of pollinator supporting plants, flowers, and herbs in these gardens. They are primarily perennials with some annuals sprinkled through. And over the decades that they've been here, it's really been both the plants that Rosemary kind of placed here and planted, and also allowing those plants to move and shift and cohabitate. So it's a little bit of a dance always for us. We have this beautiful echinacea patch back here that Rosemary has not quite up yet in flower, but that Rosemary planted, and we have some milkweeds that started to dot the landscape, and we really try to let those coexist and cohabitate as best as possible, because we want to honor the spirit of the wild here as much as the spirit of the manicured herb beds. So
it's absolutely beautiful. I'm seeing a lot of familiar plants, some I don't know, but just walking by that rose earlier, it's one of the most fragrant roses I've ever smelled before. So.
Yeah,
this is wonderful.
Well, you want to walk through the paths?
Let's mosey.
Stop and smell the roses.
Let's get some smell-o-vision going here. So at some point, I would love to hear about the transition of you taking over, because Rosemary founded it back in 1987, as you said, and I don't know if now is a good time to hear that story, but as much detail or as little detail as you'd like to bring.
Well, I've been a student here for about 20 years, and it was probably 5 years after I first came here that Rosemary and her husband Robert started to have a vision of moving to their next phase of life. This is 600 acres, 8 or 9 buildings, a lot of management, especially in the wintertime. And, as they were aging, it was time for them to kind of think about passing that on to someone. And Rosemary spent many, many years turning down lots of offers, trying to find the right person to carry this forward. So it was in 2016 and 2017 that I realized I had been spending several years visiting in the summer and weeping as I was driving away, leaving, thinking that I might not be able to come back and visit these forests again and be in this space. And eventually I just said, what would it look like if I, came here? And I'm from Florida. I lived in a city for 20 years before this. I didn't know heck about winter before I came, but I knew that I loved this mountain, and I started to have that conversation with Rosemary about what it might look like. And having managed a large nonprofit organization and events and things, I had some sense of what work would be entailed to manage an organization like this and a center like this. I could never have fully known what it would look like until I just jumped in feet first. And I've certainly had the fortune of having the mentorship and support of Robert and Rosemary every step of the way, to answer questions and provide encouragement. But, at heart, I really desired not to have Emily Ruff's Sage Mountain, but for all the thousands of folks that have been touched by this land to be able to continue coming here, and more folks to be able to continue coming here, for this not to just be sold to a private landowner and then never have access again. There's so many prayers have been planted in these forests over the last 40 years. So that was really kind of my intention, was this land just remain open and accessible for all the healing that it's given people over the years, and for that to continue. So I started a nonprofit organization to purchase the property and the center from Rosemary, and to carry on that legacy.
Awesome. So, very cool.
Yeah.
So it is officially an LLC now, so if folks want to donate.
A 501c3,
501c3, how would they go about donating?
SageMountain.com is our website. Have that all plastered over. And in fact, a lot of your folks, your viewers and followers, I'm sure were some of our supporters last summer. Many folks know that last July there were some really historic and catastrophic floods that came through central Vermont, and in particular took out about 3/4 of a mile of our road, so we didn't have access for nearly 5 months, and it was through the generous support of a lot of people in the herb community all over the United States that we were able to be resilient through that struggle and be able to continue our programs here this year. So
going to take a moment to thank you, Herbal community. We were just talking to Helen Ward about when we had that Oakland car theft, and we lost countless bits of content and computers and supplies, and the Herbal community just came through and just donated and helped us out, and like it just makes me so happy to be part of such an amazing community. And then they came forward and helped y'all out here as well. Just amazing community, and you would never even know that the flooding happened, and it's great work getting it back on track and back in its beautiful form. So thanks everybody.
I would just have to echo that Orlando Grief Care Project in 2016, and then Standing Rock in 2016 and 2017, and Oakland, the floods. I mean, there are countless examples of the herbal community really showing up for one another, and I think that really exemplifies the generosity that the plants show us and all that they share with us. So it's really beautiful to see the plant humans showing that in return and paying that forward. So
well put. I love that. Awesome. Well, let's keep moseying.
So one thing I'll point out is you'll see in many areas of the garden, Rosemary planted a lot of thyme, Thyme, so that she could have more time, Time. So I love that analogy and thinking about whether it is thyme or other plants, just how beautiful it is to be connecting with the plants as a way to just be present and sort of expand our understanding of our relationship with time by being in the garden. So
absolutely.
So it's poppy season right now.
It's gorgeous.
Got some Obedience plant through here, some comfrey really showing off, some elecampane. One of the stars of the garden this season has been Solomon seal, right behind you here, Mason. It's flowers are fading right now, but this was a gift from an herbalist in the community that we were able to bring some in. We have a little bit of Solomon seal in the forest here, and wanted to bring a little bit more into our garden. So valerian is starting to take off in bloom in this bed, which is a lot of valerian and figwort and mugwort and plume poppy. And then, go ahead. I was just
going to say, what kind of pollinators are you seeing out here?
We have so many different pollinators. We don't keep bees up here because it's really important for us to support the native pollinators. And we know that honeybees are so super important. And also up here, we want to really make sure that the native pollinators have the full breadth of the garden and don't have to compete. One in particular, the rusty butt bumblebee, is actually a little bit of a threatened pollinator species here in Vermont, and we see a lot of it, especially in the meadow. So we're really glad to see some of those monarch butterflies. Everyone knows have been really kind of threatened and having some challenges, but the monarchs are doing really good up here. That's one of the things that we do. We really try to document everything from what day does the Solomon seal bloom this year to what day do we see our first monarch in the garden, so that we can kind of have some data to compare year over year. How are the seasons changing? How is the climate changing? How are the plants and the pollinators and the animals adapting? We do the same for the wildlife neighbors that let us live in their home. We have a network of about 15 or 20 trail cameras throughout the property that watch the moose and the bear and the bobcat, fox, fisher, lots of these folks, so that we can just get to know our neighbors. And it's from that trail camera monitoring that we get to see the bear with her 3 cubs, and like how early does she wake up every spring, and like as her cubs get older and then they have their own. And so it's been a really beautiful way for us to not only get to know our neighbors, but also contribute some of that data to agencies like Fish and Wildlife and Natural Resources. So
you ever seen moose in person?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
That's
I have.
amazing.
There were 3 moose in the fen. That was my first sighting in person, and then that was about 3 years ago. And then the following spring, we were driving down the road to the post office, and a young moose was walking up the road, and so we just killed the engine, and he took about 20 minutes to meander up, and then walked right outside of my window. And I think we have a video of it up on our YouTube channel. I was in tears, so it was not my most glamorous moment, but it was really stunning.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, one of my favorite trees in the garden is hawthorn, and
Oh, this is a hawthorn.
yeah,
It's I've never seen one quite like this.
yeah. And there's one back there behind us too.
The species
And there's a
perchance?
couple others. I'd have to defer to Rosemary on that, but these hawthorn actually came from her grandmother's farm in California, and she planted them here. And we have a few down in the lower garden as well.
It's doing well.
And it is doing well, and gives us some, beautiful white flowers, and then there's red fruit. In the autumn, I'm fond of making like hawthorn ketchup and other like tinctures cool. and conserves and preparations. But just such a like heart centering herb, and I think so important. I think about the hawthorn and the roses as two of I think really the most important herbs in the garden for how they support our heart. And I feel like I feel like every year when I do an interview with someone, I'm always like, heart herbs are the most important because we all have so much grief and trauma. And then every time I say that 6 months later, 3 months later, a year later, I'm like, wow, it's even more so now. So
yeah, definitely a personal plant ally for me as well. Yeah, we don't. I've never seen the species before, but yeah, I love it.
Yeah, one thing with the hawthorn that my neighbor Betsy Bancroft taught me just recently was thinking about carrying a thorn of the hawthorn tree as a little amulet or in your pocket or your purse, just for that protection. I think about rose and hawthorn, even motherwort and its spiky little seeds that are such an annoyance if you're doing garbling of seeds, and how pokey they are. Like that thorniness really helps us create boundaries. And I think boundaries are so important for us processing our grief, like being able to have that kind of thorniness that lets our heart stay soft.
Yes.
I think about the thorns of the rose and like soft sensuous petals of the flower, like that being like what we're really striving for when it comes to like being present with and feeling our grief, like feeling the boundary so we can feel safe to then be soft and vulnerable inside.
I've heard Jim McDonald say a similar thing about the amulet, the thorn. Yeah, it's a cool idea. I love that.
Yeah.
So what kind of activities go on here at Sage Mountain, and who's welcome and when and all that jazz?
Cool. Well, everyone's welcome. We
great.
typically are open to the public June through October. And we occasionally have some winter activities too for folks that can access with 4-wheel drive. It is very snowy and steep up here in the winter. From June through October, we have what we call Day on the Mountain programs, which are Saturdays where you can come do a plant walk with Betsy Bancroft, have some nourishing lunch, and then spend the afternoon in the trails and the gardens and the pond and the libraries. Just kind of enjoy the mountain. We also have weekend programs. So this season we'll have 5 different weekend programs where retreats where you can come learn, relax, share some food, do some harvesting, plant walks. We're doing 4 in 2024 with Betsy and I called Healing with the Elements.
I saw that.
Each weekend we'll have a different element, and then these retreats are really intended to be a mix of like learning and relaxing and restoring and reconnecting with the land. So really getting a chance to appreciate why we call this a sanctuary. It's a sanctuary for plants, animals, and humans. And then we'll also have a weekend in fall with Todd Lynch on forest bathing, nature, therapy, and art. Well, we get to be really immersive in the woods.
What kind of art's going to happen?
We make all sorts of like incredible art with the plants and the items that we find in nature, and just art in the landscape that's then left in the landscape.
Look who it is.
It's our neighbor Betsy.
Yay.
So this is a 3-acre calcareous fen. This is a really rare type of cedar swamp. There are very few acres of this in the area. So we're really proud of this ecosystem being part of what we're stewarding here at Sage Mountain. And today we're hiking back on the edge of the fen so as to not disturb its really delicate soils, to see one of the queens of the mountain, Cypripedium reginae, also known as the showy lady slipper. Last year we did an inventory of the lady slippers and we counted over 3,000 of them here in this fen.
Wow.
We also have yellow lady slippers a little bit further up in the fen. Those bloom first, so those have already passed. These typically bloom around summer solstice, and everything in the gardens and in the forest is a week or two early this year because the summer, we didn't have a snow on the daffodils. We didn't have a snow in May. We typically do, and we didn't this year, so the schedule is a little bit ahead for pretty much all of our plant life here.
So you knew that the schedule was ahead, so you came down here a little early to check on the lady slippers, and there they were. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Starting in late May, we're kind of we're on alert this year so that we don't miss them, because they're only up for really about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, depending on how mild it is. We're expected to get a warm spell next week, so it'll probably speed up their blooming and their passing. So it's very fortuitous that you are here this week visiting, so you have a chance to see these, because like I said, I think this is really one of the stars of the show here at Sage. I mean, the gardens are beautiful, the forest is amazing, but rare plants like these, and especially in such density and such quantity, to have several thousand of them that we've vouched here, is just really, really remarkable. We're really proud of what nature does in this space, and blessed to be able to witness it every year.
Any insect relationships that you're aware of?
Yeah, there are some incredible pollinators. These lady slippers are specifically pollinated by some specific six-leggeds. I have a short list in the office that I can share with you about them. They're definitely, it's a very unique set of insects that pollinates these.
Yeah. They are beautiful.
Yeah.
So showy.
Showy, yeah. They've earned their name well.
Yeah.
And we also have some of the pink lady slippers, which have a slightly smaller flower and have more of the red on the outside with the pink in the middle. But these are really the quantity and the density, and they go all the way down. So in the floods last year, the waterways and the streams and stuff kind of shifted a little, and I did a lot of hiking through here after the flood, and you could see the remnants of these kind of way far down into the woods.
Yeah, they look almost like they're in bud right there. They just start popping soon.
Yeah, there's some real pregnant ones getting ready to open right up that way. So
thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for coming to the fen.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you about is if there's any story that you're aware of about the castles.
Yeah, so these castles were built in the early 90s by Ed Foisey, lovingly known as Uncle Eddie in this community. We have 3 castles here at Sage that he built, as well as a number of fairy doors in the bases of trees and other nooks in the garden. Uncle Eddie's from Cape Cod, and as I understand it, these castles and fairy doors are really about restoring our kind of childlike vision and enchantment of nature, and reminding all of us stodgy adults like the fairies still exist, which I think for the herbal crowd is not a hard sell.
No,
but
not at
it's
all.
quite amazing. So we have 3 of them. We have this entry one and 2 in the gardens, and it's really amazing to see like the electric company or the guy that comes to pump the septic, like folks that are not here to visit Sage but are visiting Sage, just really being enamored by these. So he's cracked the code to kind of help us in our adult minds move back into our childlike minds and hearts.
It's not just the castles, but there's other statues and stuff around that are they just really bring out that childlike quality in you. Like the gal blowing the windmill in the upper garden. I love that one.
Yeah. We also invite folks all summer and fall to come have private retreat or group retreats here at Sage. We have 4 cabins that folks can rent, and folks can also camp out and just spend a weekend or a couple days or a week, whether in solitude or with family and friends, just disconnecting from Babylon and reconnecting to nature and filling your cup before you go home.
Now, are you using any herbs here to make your own like personal medicine, or like to sell as a Sage Mountain type of product or anything
personal
like that?
medicine, absolutely.
Yeah.
And with like our weekend programs, we do a lot. Like our first weekend with Betsy will be on air element, and we'll be really focusing on nettle, making some nettle vinegar and some nettle food. So we use the herbs with the kids, make different preparations and teach them about those plants. Yeah, and we have like sometimes selective seasonal stuff in our gift shop. We also have a full line of Sage Mountain flower essences.
Sweet.
That'll be available on our website.
Did you start that?
Later this year? Yeah.
Nice, very cool.
Yeah, it was actually just kind of like a labor of love and like a project of like capturing the energy of the mountain when I was a student here. And every time I would come, I would just like find myself making more and more flower essences. So then when I moved in, I was like, this would be a great thing to share with folks. So
Is there a lady
coming
slipper
soon.
essence?
There is.
Of course. All right, so is this officially called the lower garden, or did I make that up?
It's unofficially the lower garden,
Okay.
but that is what we call it, yeah. So sort of the upper garden and the lower garden. Over in the shady zone here under the trees is where you'll see a lot of the at-risk medicinals like the wild ginger, and the cohoshes, golden seal, bloodroot, kind of take up this zone, and then moving into mints and lilies and echinacea and elecampane, angelica, all sorts of medicinals.
I don't
Like
suppose the
said-
wild ginger's blooming right now.
I don't know, let's take a look.
Take a look, see, yeah. What were you gonna say though?
We have about 200 species between the flowers and the herbs in these gardens, and every season it transforms a little bit. Also some wild strawberries, ripe right now, so you
these all
see a little
violet?
red. Violets,
Yeah.
yeah, we have
gonna
at
say, 'cause
least
they kinda-
5 different species of violets.
Gotcha. At least the in Oregon, the violets could almost be mistaken the leaves for the wild ginger. Like they look kind of
Totally.
similar, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, no blooms on it
No.
that I can see. There's
Yeah.
there's several patches of it as we work our way down. No flowers yet on the golden seal, but any day now.
yeah. Got your garden gnome.
Kind of requisite.
Yep. Gotta have it. Comfrey.
So this comfrey actually came from Adele Dawson's garden. I don't know if you know Adele.
I don't.
She wrote Herbs, Partners in Life. Herbs, Partners in Life.
Okay. What's the
and-
thesis of that book?
What's that?
What's the thesis of that book?
Yeah,
or-
it's just a beautiful book with like herbal recipes and remedies and talking
Cool.
about the healing qualities of the herbs. And so Adele was sort of like a legendary elder herbalist in Vermont when Rosemary moved here. Deb Sewell studied closely with
Yeah.
Adele and had a close relationship with her. Adele was well into her 90s when she passed away. And yeah, it's sort of one of those kind of teachers of our teacher, I think. So these
that.
came from Adele's garden, another herb flower that's not quite up yet, but will be soon, are hollyhocks. We have some, I mean, the plant itself they just haven't shot up their flower stalk yet. We have a beautiful collection of different hollyhock here that came from Tasha Tudor's garden.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar
I'm
with
not
her, but she
familiar.
was another herbalist in New England. She was an artist. She wrote a lot of kids' books and was well known as a gardener. So they're sort of two of our sort of like ancestral lineage influence on the herbalists that you and I have probably studied under, at least in the New England area. So it's a real gift to have some of their plants from their garden in our garden.
I love that there's a story like that, and I suppose that there's lots of plants around Sage Mountain where you're like, oh, this came from that person's garden. And since we stayed with Rosemary, she's gifting us with a little Schisandra start. And I'm like, oh, sweet, we're going to have a little Rosemary Schisandra in our yard. But then she told us that it came from Nancy Phillips.
Yeah.
So kind of by way of Nancy Phillips. So
Yeah.
I love that you're able to have those stories. And I suppose we got this comfrey from, remind me of her name one more time.
Adele Dawson.
Adele Dawson. And do you suppose that comfrey as well probably came
Yeah,
from Adele
absolutely.
Dawson?
All the comfrey here, and like the hawthorn coming from Rosemary's
Right.
grandmother's farm
yeah.
in California.
Do you have any other plants that come to mind of where they might have came from, or is that putting you on the spot?
Probably lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about our wild yam. Came from one of the UPS board members eons ago.
Okay.
He gifted to Rosemary, and I know Rosemary in her travels would often collect plants.
Sure, yeah.
Bring them here, so I think there's a lot of those stories, some of which still need to be documented.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that. Awesome. I suppose this is kind of the end of the road over here.
Yeah, well, there's actually, this is not the most like film-worthy part, just fair warning.
Yeah.
But, and partly because we didn't get down here and trim yet this morning. He was going to trim a bunch of stuff this morning. And I was like, Mason's coming in the morning, actually. Can't trim. But this, just for y'all to know, this mugwort, and then there's also a bunch of nettle down here.
Yeah.
It's kind of like colonize the meadow. So we do mow it, but it's like a nice like
Mugwort
weaving
nettle.
in of those
How
herbs.
strong is the sting on that nettle?
Pretty.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't want to try it.
We're just starting to get
Little St. John's.
hints of buds.
Nice.
Yeah, usually around solstice it is in bloom, and it looks like it's right on time.
My friend Kyle Denton, he's an herbalist in Milwaukee. He calls it solstice wort.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a perfect name for it.
Yeah.